Welcome to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast, where high achieving entrepreneurs and leaders come to receive deep, insightful conversations and practical guidance to move from hustle to flow without sacrificing their authentic self and the results. I am your host and Chief Energy Officer, Tammy Cho, a former patient care leader turned international best-selling author, speaker, and face and body analysis expert. Get ready to lead your authenticity, lead your energy, and lead your impact. Thank you so much for tuning in and being here with me today. I am super excited about what we are diving into today because not only am I highlighting a private client's struggles that you are very likely struggling with for yourself in your own way, but you will get to really experience some of the physical changes that happen to my client's face, her facial features, in the time that we work together. Because often, right, when we invest in ourselves, in our personal development, the inner shifts and changes are not often tangibly visible, right? And it can be difficult to really measure. However, what I know is that what we choose to measure and focus on does expand. And in this episode, you will get to witness some of these physical changes that my client experienced in her before and after face analysis photos, with challenges you are likely struggling with too, and perhaps how this may be showing up on your own face. You will also get to really have the opportunity, right, to witness how the work we did in our one-to-one coaching and how it directly physically shifts the exact parts of our face that represented those pieces in her growth. I honestly love face analysis because it really helps, me to witness our transformation and growth in a really physical way where our mind can come in and just play down all the growth that has occurred and happened, right? And of course, because I am increasing the energy alignment of our body, we are also affecting the flow for our health. So it is affecting our face, but it's also affecting our health. So in this episode, it's really diving deeper into all these things and understanding at a deeper level how much communication and opportunity is literally spelled out in our own face and bodies. We are honestly more connected than we think. So please allow yourself, as you're listening to this episode, to listen and visualize how Tracy's story may be playing out in your own life, and to really listen to some of the facial features that are shifting and changing that may be related to you. And for those who are highly visual, I also have my podcast on YouTube right now. So if you want to visibly see the before and after changes, in addition to hearing about it, here I have the link to it below in the show notes. And so you're welcome to click on that. Now, after this episode, you will have essentially an upgraded perspective on how you see your own body in an entirely different light. So how exciting is that? So if you're on the journey of being the highest, best version of yourself in your self-leadership, right? You are exactly in the right place. Let's dive in. Now, Tracy, just a bit of background, right? She was a high-level corporate leader who now is growing her personal branding and marketing business. And really taking her marketing and leadership skills from corporate, she was really doing all the right things in building her business, right? Except that when we were chatting on a one-to-one networking call, she shared with me that she felt things are going right, except she seemed to struggle to create more space for herself. She did not feel burned out per se, but she definitely felt a bit overstretched. And because she was on the personal development journey a while, she was able to admit that she knew something was missing. And she got a sense that she didn't know what she didn't know. Right? And this shows up differently for everyone. Struggling to really create more space for yourself could be that space of silence when you know you needed to speak up for yourself and you didn't, and you could feel it in your throat, right? Or that space where you knew you were not taking up the space to play bigger and to show up more visibly, to be that best version of yourself. And all the self ridicule and words you might say to yourself after the fact, right? Or that space when you take time off for yourself or with your family and you feel the space and the time you created feels empty, unfulfilled, like you are not really present and connected and really there in the moment, right? What high achievers don't realize is that when we do everything that makes sense already, but we struggle to truly create or be in that space, energetically, you are not able to emotionally receive yourself. When you already know that what you need to do, but have challenges allowing yourself to take action, to do it, to give that to ourselves, to speak up or to be there in the moment, right? Energetically, you're not able to emotionally receive yourself at a deeper level. And this creates that plateau, right? That lack of passion, that loss of spark, like something's missing, you know? And for Tracy, when I was able to support her to overcome the emotional blocks and expand her emotional abundance threshold to step in her leadership, her face shape started to change. And here's a clip from the session.
Yeah. And so what do you notice about the shape of your face now that left side being before and right side being after?
Uh, it looks more oval. I don't know. It looks like in the original picture, there's more like kind of jutting out points. And in the new one, it's kind of a little more smoother around the outside.
Yeah.
What I see. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm describing it well, but
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, right? And this is actually quite it's the face shape is kind of like what speaks to your personality of who you are. And before, yeah, you did have a relatively oval shape, but you also had more straight edges in some
mhm,
places. Whereas this, it's actually all like ovaling out, and it speaks to that feminine sensitivity, that nurturance, like that
mm,
more warm, loving, and expression of that within yourself to other people's and how you show up.
mhm,
So, like honestly, I mean, some people might say you thinned out in your face, but as we're looking at it with a face analysis, we know the shape of your face is adjusting to who you are in essence.
mhm,
And just for the recording, seeing that we were just talking about that, there's a lot of space that you created within yourself. And that was, yeah, highlighting in office and a dance space, which I know when we first met, it was something that was not there.
I had no space for just myself. And now it's I feel like it's one of those things that's almost like a skill, right? Like you have to create it, and then once you have created it, then you have practice and it's easier to create it again. Just like even when I went on vacation and I was like, I need to be by myself for this amount of time, and then I'll meet up with everybody later. I'm gonna go for lunch by myself. Um, and it was glorious. So my practice at creating space for myself, I think it's really cool that you can see it in my face, because I can, like, the more and more I do it, the more I'm like, I really should do more of this because it feels good every time.
And so, from what you heard, right, like Tracy came from a place of very much living out of her headspace. She's very logical, kind of get things done kind of person. And, although her face shape was initially very oval, that was really the essence of who she was. She always had that nurturing, a warm and affectionate personality, but because she felt she had to be something different and do things a certain way, that very much didn't allow her to come back to herself. So this softening of her face shape was really allowing her to be more of herself. And the space that was showing up between the extra space compared to her previous photo and the current photo was the space between her eyebrows and her eyes actually increased in size. And so this really speaks about that space that she's giving for herself to process and be with the more feminine emotional spaces within herself. And because she was able to allow herself to step back into who she was, it really opened up a layer to receive more. So for Tracy, it was physical space, right? She started off having no room for herself, and she created at the end of our time together basically a new home with two rooms, one for her dancing, which she loves, and another for her business. And so, and guess what? That was translating on all these different areas, right? And how she was relating to receiving more space for herself in other areas. And when we create space based on the law of vacuum, we get to receive more. And so let's move on to the next clip here.
Another thing, I don't know if you noticed this or remember this when we did your first face reading, you had this, you notice how your iris was actually above the bottom of your rim of your eye?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now it's
Yeah.
sitting. And so when we see someone's eyes above, it's a place where you might have been like definitely more disconnected in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were actually above and not necessarily connecting to all the feelings and things that were actually happening at a subconscious level. And now it's nicely centered, as you can see, landing within your body. So that is a very good thing to see,
Yeah.
Tracy. And I mean, in combination of that, we already spoke about how these folds have lightened, and just the stress level has gone down, and the two minds, balls of light, we're going to call them balls of light, that have joined at the top here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, also your gifts of that open-mindedness, like really connected to your crown, your connection, is it feels pretty similar. I would say that there's opportunity because this is your left side.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how it goes up higher on both sides.
Yeah.
And so so the right side on expressing your gifts to the world could be a bit of opportunity there for us to work on like accepting this intuitive, connected inner vision power that you have, and to actually share more of you there. So I'm just seeing opportunity there.
And so, what we could see from the last clip, see or hear from the last clip, right, was that, yeah, her iris was totally above the bottom of her eyelid, right, and this really speaks to a place for her where her mind was separated from her emotions, right. She wasn't in her body, and whenever we're not in our body, we're not actually feeling our emotions fully, right? And I pointed to some of the folding at the side of her nose here, right? And how that was more deep before and also then more deep after, I mean, less deep after the fact. And so, although she called it feeling overstretched and not really quite burned out per se, she was definitely heading in that direction, right? There was a space within her where she was actually more stressed in her body than she was connected to, right? Because she wasn't in her body. So therefore, it's hard to really feel all of that. Yet, because she's a very emotional being, she really talks with the language of feelings, right? Yet she was being more logical than she was really allowing herself to feel her emotions, right? And so when I saw that difference in her hairline at the top of her crown, she actually was, more intuitive than she connects to. And by opening up the emotions, it really allows her to connect deeper to these gifts of creativity, vision, intuition, information coming up from the universe, coming in from the universe, right? So there was this points to space for her to grow and to expand into more of who she actually is. And so that's really, really exciting. And so let's move on to the next clip here.
We didn't talk about, but you brought up about your lips being more lifted up, more full even. Like if you look at your intuition, this kind of went down deeper, but it's also risen almost. And so that's expression of your intuitive capacity, but also your inner sensitivity. And then there's your lower lip where it's more red. So where you're actually placing your intention on expressing in a more masculine energy, more strong within yourself, there's more potent when you choose to talk. And I'm seeing that because of the rim I see here.
Yeah.
And then there is still a rim here. So there's definitely a space to deepen that expression of holding yourself. And through doing these changes within yourself, that could be a focus if you choose. Because when we are lifting in our sensitivity, we need to also lift in masculine energy. So it's like that, both those energies working and together.
Right.
So the other thing I notice is that this is a lot deeper here. Notice that? And this has lightened a lot. And so this is that inner conflict of expression. So it's less conflicted to speak up for yourself in this masculine light and to create that safety, belonging, whatever that looks like to you. And the reason I say that too is look how your chin has changed. So it's more narrow here and it's widened.
Yeah.
So your grounding, your belonging within yourself has changed, I would say, pretty significantly. I mean, obviously you're not like square chin, but that's not who you are. You're more that feminine sensitivity, right? And so in the feminine sensitivity, now you have something to support yourself more readily. And it's almost like turning into more rounder of a shape.
Yeah.
So when we see a chin that's sort of rounder, it's like it shows that your ability to look at both sides. So when we start to heal the masculine and feminine side of things, then many times you're able to see both sides of the story. There's that like more, I don't know, relationship with that duality. And it's almost like interesting because it's almost like coming forward a little bit in the front picture here, you know? So I would say that usually that's speaking about a bit of that humanitarianness that is stepping out, like when you have like a rounded chin kind of coming forward. So we'll see what that looks like later and what your focuses bring you to. But yeah, I just thought I wanted to share that and to really highlight that about yourself.
So for Tracy, right, what shifted on her face is that you can see overall, if you're watching on YouTube, right, but if you're listening to this, you can really see her lips was a lot more pink red, right? Whereas before it was, a lighter pink, a more pale, so to speak. There was less circulation, less flowing into her expression. And Tracy is someone that speaks a lot. She's a speaker in the community, very much educating, speaking online. So it wasn't that she wasn't, going out there and speaking and sharing, right? But there was a holding back of a part of herself, therefore in her expression as well. And so the lips getting more colorful in this way, it's bringing another layer, the next level of expression into her life to really learn to hold and speak up for herself in this way. And that darkened area under her bottom of her lip, how it turned from a deeper divot and to something that's a lot lighter, right? And so that's just showing how that is improving and shifting within herself and how her chin has rounded out. And, I spoke about this on other episodes, right? But when we are shifting and changing, it's about the amount of safety we feel in our bodies, right? And so what showed up was how the iris was higher than the lower part of our eyelid earlier, right? So there was fear being held in the body and she didn't have that safety. And so if I were to help her drop in her body and she didn't shift her chin, which represented that grounding, security, and safety, that would definitely be what I would focus on with her, right? Because and then I know the results won't be grounded, so to speak. And so this is one of the ways I serve someone to see where we need to grow to really support the structure of self, not only energetically, emotionally, but also physically, as it's represented in the body with embodiment practices. And so, yeah, this is very beautiful work. And she's coming into her humanitarianness of her beingness, which is exudes from her, witnessing her grow as a client. And so let's move on to the next clip.
Yeah.
I will point out, notice too, right? Your nostrils are different here,
Mm-hmm.
and how this one's slightly smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things we, worked on was some of the things that happen between, a bit of anger between, mom and
Yeah.
parents, but it was like showing up in your face more on the feminine side here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see that that flow has increased, like your nostrils have opened up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more enoughness energy. There's
Mm-hmm.
more flow. You can take in more breath. So that was really cool to see too.
So you could see for Tracy, right, that there was like a difference in her nostrils. And that's one of the ways anger shows up on her body, right? And it was on the left side of her face. So we did a lot of emotional anger release work with mom, both parents, but it was mom mainly, right? That was holding her back in many ways at emotional level, and therefore affecting all these things, even her physical body. And so this place, right, really where we take in breath, where we take in life for our body, was being restricted. And so that generates a feeling of not good enoughness, right? That literally doesn't feel like there's enough going into the body, subconsciously. And it's really blocking that flow of receiving once again, right? And so this is just one of the ways it shows up. And so, like, ask yourself this question, right? Like, is there a place within yourself that you're holding in anger that is maybe showing up in your face in this way, right? And so we'll move on to the next clip where we're actually looking at the right profile, so the side of the face, to see what has shifted.
Here actually looks more out, and this one
Yeah.
is more sort of a back. So sometimes when we see, oopsie, this chin
Mm-hmm.
coming out, is that like overachieving determination to move forward?
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it's like sort of you settle back into yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting because what you see in the front coming out, and and the way we see it coming out in the front doesn't necessarily need to match the side. Sometimes that's why we got to actually look at both sides.
Right.
But that is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bit of shadowing here, so I don't know if that's a bit of it, but you can see that there's this determination coming down.
Yeah.
So it's a more kind of like, I got to do it this way, a bit more stubbornness maybe.
Yeah.
And there's and yeah, so sort of a get things done more personality, whereas now it's like you have a bit more flow within your structure, which I
Mm-hmm.
believe that is more of the essence of who you are. You are more abstract flow, whatever that is. So
Yeah.
whereas before you're trying to like do it,
Yeah.
energy, so that's very interesting. Let me
Yeah.
just see the ears. Yeah, to me, the ears on the right side actually look slightly lower. Sometimes it's a bit of the angling of the camera, but it's kind of to the side of your eye.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be similar, just slightly lower. So
Yeah.
this is that taking time to process.
Mm-hmm.
Because when your ears are lower, generally, it's telling us that you're needing that to process more, and the fact that it's changed is that you've created space for that,
Yeah.
in your inner world.
I
Yeah.
think the thing that I notice is that my eyes look more wide open. Like in the original picture, I had a lot of eyelid, and in the
Mm.
second one, I don't see any.
Yeah, and this might be a little bit because like this picture on the left, you're looking down, whereas the
Yeah.
picture on the right, you're looking more
Mm.
straight. And
Yeah.
having said that, like if I was to watch and watch you throughout the day and seeing where your eyes are positioned, that does psychosomatically show where your mindset is at. So you're looking straight, you're looking forward to life. Whereas if you're looking down, it's like you're sort of in your emotions feeling down, not you, yeah, like that kind of energy, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it could be that your eyes are looking differently, and we would look at patterns. But
Yeah.
what I find is very interesting, and the pictures that people send me is exactly what I need to say and tell them.
Yeah.
So it's good that you notice that, and it's noticing within yourself, like, because people look down a lot, they have a lot of neck strain.
Mm.
And so I and I can see here, like, just because I can see the back here.
Yeah.
And I know from doing your body reading that it is still a bit forward. So there's
Yeah.
definitely some space to come back to self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, this is yeah, I'm fairly happy with what we're seeing here myself.
So we could see, right, for Tracy, see or hear, depending where you're listening to this, right, is that the chin, right, was very much rounded out, right? And it's shifted to actually to be less rounded out and more pulled back. And, there's, for the context of Tracy, right, that she was like really in the energy of going and doing a little bit too much for what she actually needed within her body as it was showing up in her natural way of being in a more soft essence and that creativity, right? And so that lowered ears that, was slightly lowered. I mean, it takes a lot to lower ear, right? But, and then it was really highlighting this piece of she was able to allow herself to be more of herself, give herself what she needs. Because essentially, because I do human design too, Tracy also has two in her unconscious side of her chart, right? And so there's a big unconscious need to actually spend more time with herself. But at the same time, doing that, many of us think that we're not going to achieve as much. But Tracy has proven that when she has given herself more space, more flow is coming to her life and things are coming with way more ease, right? And so having her eyes more forward now, she's actually looking out to the horizon versus looking down and maybe getting stuck in some repetitive feelings and putting the head forward and disconnecting from her emotions and things like this. And so that's how some of this plays out for some of us. And so all of these things really point to places within ourselves. So it's important to ask yourself, yes, you don't know how to do your own reading, but like, how does your chin look, right? On the side, how much has it changed over the years? Maybe you want to compare to an older picture. Maybe you want to, you're really called to doing your own personalized session. So know that you could book a personalized session to go into all these details for yourself to really highlight, those subconscious blocks, to how to return to more of who you are. And this is the space I work within, right? And so I invite you to really book a call. If you're not ready to move forward, I also have in the show notes, right? The Lead Your Authenticity and the 5 video face analysis video series to really support you to start that process. And so, yeah, thank you for listening. We're going into a bit of the last video just to wrap things up together, okay?
And there's just something that's in the second picture just feels more complete, like it's balanced better. And I can feel as a human that I feel much more balanced in terms of kind of letting things in, exploring more of that feminine side, and still being able to like hold a line with the masculine energy, but it just feels more, I don't know, it feels more Tracy. And now when I look at the two pictures, I'm like that's Tracy. The new picture, like that looks like Tracy. um and which is interesting because I'm sure when I looked at the original picture, I was like, oh yeah, it's me. But yeah, it's almost like more light, more energy. Like everything looks more energetic. Like there's a
Yeah.
deeper well from which to draw from than I had before.
Truly, this work is really such an honor to really help someone, become the best, highest version of themselves, which is really coming back to the truth of who they are and to feel that balance and harmony, that, elevated energy and lightness in the body, being able to really live life in this way where you're able to, step in the masculine energy, take action, hold boundaries, speak up for yourself in this way, create more space, to really feel like more joy and fulfillment of allowing yourself to just be yourself. And just by doing that, it is possible to, like, really, you're creating that capacity to receive, to let in more. And this energy of receiving is very much comes from the feminine, and it's through the emotions. It's through the emotions of coming back deeper into ourselves, where we come back to our deeper gifts, more of who we are, a feeling of inner harmony where we could authentically, live our impact and make our impact, being the truth of who we are in our authentic self. And to me, this is really why I created Authentic Leaders Rising, really, right? To like help people like rise to their new next highest best version of themselves in their career, in their business, right? As a leader, starting right here. And so this is very much the beauty of the work. I hope that this really supported you in space of really connecting to yourself in a different way, to know that this creating more space, wherever those spaces are for you, right? The challenges that of holding space for yourself in those areas, that I highlighted earlier in the episode, right? Like really allow that to drop into yourself and to know that, Tracy, looking at the initial photo initially, yeah, that's me. But what if, and just what if there's another version of yourself calling you home? And that looks like through your emotions back to the safety of your own body to really fully, completely express yourself in this way. And that's all. Just take a breath into that. Because a part of you knows there's more for you. You have more to give. There's more impact for you to take action on. And it's not at the expense of yourself. It's through holding yourself with that much self love and self reverence, and to be in your power, being held in the safety of your body, and to take action from that place. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe if you haven't. Please leave a review and share it. Share it on your Instagram. Take a screenshot. Share it with your friends, other people that would benefit from something like this, who really need to see things in a really tangible way to really bridge the logical, right, with the emotional, control with the receiving, all this balance of the masculine and feminine energy. Please support us in this movement and to get our podcast out there, to get this message out there. And I invite you, if you haven't already, ready to book a session, with me to really look at the truth now, because transformation happens in this place of vulnerability, face to face, with the truth of who we are. And are you ready to receive yourself as your deepest calling? So much love for you. Yes, please click on the link below, book a call with me, book a session with me. Really tune in to the Lead Your Authenticity face analysis video series if you haven't already. I know I sound like a broken record already. It's a very, it's some video that I really put a lot of heart into, to really hold space for you to really awaken to more of who you are. And so I really invite you to take that gift and to really step into that place of really knowing yourself in a deeper way, because you matter. Lots of love to you. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review so others can find the life-changing content that we're sharing here.
We are starting our movement on our way to number 1, and we need your help to get there. If you'd like to connect with other high-achieving entrepreneurs and leaders who are also on their authentic, energetic leadership journey, join our free Facebook community, Energetically Aligned Leaders. Go to pathtotheheart.com/links to join the Facebook group, book your personalized face analysis experience, or to access our resources.